Welcome into the On3 Studios here in Nashville, Tennessee. Today's Wednesday, June 19th, and we got a loaded show today. It's been a big week of major developments all over the recruiting landscape, so we're going to cover that today. But before we get going, guys, make sure you are subscribed to the best recruiting channel on YouTube, the On3 Recruits channel. Go ahead, hit subscribe for me, please. All right, off the top of the show, we got big news to address. Yesterday, Michigan landed top 10 2026 QB out of Florida, Brady Hart. Yesterday, number one edge, five-star Isaiah Gibson decommitted from USC. Today, another one, a five-star, number two defensive lineman, Justice Terry, decommits from USC. And just like that, only one five-star remains on the USC commit list. A really tough 24 hours for the Trojans. Two five-star recruits, both decommit, both at positions of major need. What else can you say? I mean, it's a rough 24 hours. So USC goes from number 3 in the rankings to outside the top 10 at number 11. Now it's time for us to talk, USC fans. You know, the fans that are in the comment section feverishly typing away in every video. Josh, you don't know what you're talking about. Josh, it's not going to happen. Josh, his mom has a house in LA. Josh, but Coach Henney. Josh, but the vibes. Well, I'm glad that I listened to experts like Chad Simmons and Steve Wiltfong. These guys know what's going on behind the scenes. They hinted at this happening for the past few weeks, and they were dead on. The writing has been on the wall, and now Isaiah Gibson and Justice Terry are officially back on the market. But the biggest question coming out of all this, the biggest question, will five-star Julian Lewis be next? He's committed to USC. He's also from Georgia. There's been no word, no response from him. We'll see how this goes. This weekend, we know he's on campus at Colorado. We know that he's been to Auburn. The question is, will Julian Lewis be the next to decommit? He was the first to commit in this class. So is he going to bail or is he going to continue to build? Is Julian Lewis next? That is the question. We'll see what happens after this weekend. Now, you know what I'm going to say. Well, you think I know what I'm going to say, but you don't know what I'm going to say. I think he's still solid. I do. I know it's not what you expected me to say, but Juju Lewis, like I said, he was the very first commitment in this class. It took 7 months before USC added a second commitment to this class. So he's been there when he was the only five-star. He was there when there were 3 5-stars. He's still there when they're back down to 1. So I still feel good, believe it or not. USC fans, though, we got to admit, following recruiting might not be for all of you. Yes, be a USC football fan all you want, but USC recruiting, well, USC, it's one of those programs, and I think Auburn fits in this category as well, where there are a lot of highs and there's a lot of lows throughout the cycle. Massive recruiting wins like a Juju Lewis, like a number 1 edge, like a number 1 defensive lineman, but USC also gets some devastating losses along the way. It's not easy to follow USC recruiting. They date supermodels, right? USC is in the game of pursuing the top 1%, and it's tough to date supermodels. Why? Because they got options. And when you play that game, sometimes you get burned. So we're going to have to see what happens. We're coming off some massive highs, some lows, but as a recruiting fan, if you're going to follow USC recruiting, you just have to be prepared for this. But don't worry. It's a roller coaster ride all the way to the finish. And when it's all said and done, I promise you, USC, they're going to be okay. They're going to get more wins than they have losses. They're going to win their fair share of these battles. In this class, it's going to still be great, but it is a roller coaster ride. So enjoy it. So now let's talk about some of these recruits that are back on the market. As for Isaiah Gibson, he decommitted yesterday while he was on campus at Ohio State. Yes, he arrived for his official visit, and a couple hours later, he puts out a statement that he's no longer committed to USC. Coincidence, or does this mean something for Ohio State? I still like Georgia here. What about Justice Terry? Well, the big news, besides his decommitment, is that he's going to take an official visit this weekend to Alabama. So you know that had to be at least in the works somewhat over the past couple of days for this all to come, all these announcements to come one after another. So he decommits on Wednesday morning. About 20 minutes later, there's news that he's going to be at Alabama for an official visit. But I still like Georgia here. So that could change. We'll see what happens on this visit. But if it doesn't, If Justice Terry starts trending to Georgia just like Isaiah Gibson, then we have to start talking about Georgia overtaking Ohio State for the number 1 class. Yes, there's still plenty of chess pieces left on the board, but if 2 5-stars in Gibson and Terry are headed to Athens, they're going to have a very good shot at the number 1 class in America. All right, more big news that went down yesterday. 2026 QB domino fell, and it was a big one, and there could be more to come. So I'm going to break down the top 10 quarterbacks in the 2026 class. I'm going by the On3 rankings here, not the industry rankings, the On3 quarterback rankings. So let's take a look here at the top 10. You see, you got 7 out of 10 uncommitted. And at the top, number 1 quarterback, Faison Brandon. If I had to make a pick for him right now, it would be Tennessee. But watch, he visits NC State this weekend. He's been around and could be prepared to make a decision before the season starts. So moving down the board, you got number 4, Ryder Lyons. He is trending to USC, but it's an intriguing prospect right here because he's going to sit out for a year. He's going to go on a Mormon mission for 1 year. So does this kind of make him a 2027 quarterback? Maybe, but for all intents and purposes, Ryder Lyons at number 4, trending to USC. Number 5, Jake Fett. I'm not exactly sure which direction his recruitment's headed right now, but number 5, Brady Smeagol. When Brady Hart came off the board, the pick started rolling in for Smeagol, who's from California, to Florida State. Both Chad Simmons and Steve Wiltfong dropped predictions for Smeagol to Florida State. At 6, you got Hoon, who is from California and visited Texas and Michigan in the spring. But both those schools have landed their quarterback, so look for a team maybe to make a move on Hoon. Jonas Williams there trending to Ohio State at number 7. Number 8, Will Griffin came off the board June 1st to Florida. Jaden O'Neal from California is trending to Oklahoma. And then you see Brady Hart. He's from Florida. He commits to Michigan, who also joins Carter Smith from the 2025 class, who Michigan has committed, and he is from Naples, Florida. So back-to-back quarterbacks back-to-back years going down to the state of Florida to land a quarterback. All right, what do you guys think? Who will be the next quarterback off the board? Let's talk QB dominoes. Let me know, comment section below. All right, so it's a big show today. We're going to talk Ohio State. We're going to talk Florida State, big weekends in Columbus and Tallahassee. Now, with the Ohio State segment, we talked just moments before Isaiah Gibson reopened his recruitment. The intel still stands in that segment, but if we refer to him as a USC commitment, you know why. All right, let's get on with the show. Florida State has the biggest recruiting weekend in the country on tap, so we're bringing in FSU recruiting expert Michael Langston for this video because the Noles, they have 22 visitors on campus, plus the 6 midweek, so nearly 30 visitors in the next 5 days. It is a busy time in Tallahassee. Don't worry, we're going to break it all down for you. But first, Nole fans, let's go. Hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. We need you to be a part of it. We're trying to grow this thing. We need as many FSU fans on board as possible. All right, let's bring on Michael Langston from War Chant. Mike, they're doing this on purpose. They're bringing in nearly 30 guys in the span of 5 days. What's the strategy here?
Yeah, the strategy is get them late. They understand that decisions are going to be made late. Be the last thing that these kids are thinking about before they go in decision mode, and really shoot your shot at all these top guys. We'll talk about that some shortly, but it's a massive list of guys. I certainly have 4 midweek guys that are in there. 5, you can count another official visit and offensive lineman for the 2024 class. But I think overall, it's going to be a extremely chaotic and busy weekend and a fun one.
Yeah, controlled chaos, because the importance of this weekend is the fact that it's the last official visit weekend of the summer before the big dead period hits. And we've seen guys left and right, recruits that didn't even plan on making summer decisions, announcing, hey, I'm going to make my decision in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 10 days. There's going to be a lot of decisions coming down after this weekend, so that's why this weekend is so important. Speak of importance, let's talk offensive line, because we know FSU fans, they are intrigued by these offensive linemen that are on campus. And Mike, I don't know if I've ever seen this in Tallahassee, but there's going to be 3 5-star offensive linemen on campus this weekend. You got Solomon Thomas, who's committed to FSU, but then you got Ty Haywood, who's from Texas, and Josh Petty, 2 5-star offensive tackles all coming in together. When it comes to the uncommitted guys like a Ty Haywood or Josh Petty, who do you think Florida State has a better shot at landing?
I would certainly say Josh Petty. There's a lot of things trending their way. I feel really good about most of the picks that we've seen, both from Steve Wilfong and Chad Simmons. I feel really good about where FSU is coming in with that visit. So he's certainly a guy that's been trending a lot. Ty Haywood's another one that's it. I almost put him in the dark horse situation
Mm-hmm.
where they really made a big impression in the spring, but Petty's kind of the one I've circled that if everything goes well, I think they're probably going to get some good news. When he does make that decision, and as you pointed out, Solomon Thomas here. I was only concerned with him if we heard some radars go off when he took visits to LSU and in Florida. We
Yeah.
didn't hear that, so I feel pretty good that he's likely going to stick, and probably I'd say there's a decent and good chance that he shuts down things.
Man, so you're telling me right now you think there's a good shot that Florida State signs 2 5-star offensive linemen in this cycle?
It's very possible, and it's actually not possible. It's probably more likely than possible. So I think they've done a great job, both selling the product, and then you have guys like Lamont Rogers,
Yeah.
Ty Haywood. These are all top guys, but I think also the thinking too of this is like if FSU doesn't get them, they want to have a previous relationship. So when these guys hit the portal, they'll already have on there in case they don't pick FSU and then they go to college and it doesn't work out. I think that's part of the draw too of I think a reason why a lot of these things. Shoot your shot, go for it, show the pitch of what the program is, and then later if it doesn't work and you go to the portal, this is kind of the philosophy of how the portal works for FSU, where they have previous reestablishing relationships, and I think that's part of the reason too that you host these guys and give it a shot.
Yeah, see what happens. Yeah, I didn't even mention Lamont Rogers. He's not a 5-star, but he is a borderline 4-star,
Yeah,
5-star type guy out of the state of Texas. Just a huge weekend. Mike, we can't cover it all, so I got to tell the people. Go to warchant.com.
yeah,
You guys do an incredible job. I mean, we don't have time to sit here and talk about 28 official visitors. I mean, maybe we could,
right.
but it'd be a 2-hour show. I want to talk right now, though, about wide receiver Vernell Brown III. This is really
Right.
intriguing because coming out of that Ohio State visit, he went to Miami midweek. Then he goes to Florida. Now it's Florida State. So basically, all 4 of the teams that he's going to come down and make a decision for are getting a visit in the month of June. Why is this one so important?
Well, it's vital. They wanted the last visit because they know he's a Florida legacy. His dad played there, so Florida got the visit right before them, and then they knew Ohio State was a threat, and they knew Miami was hanging around of it being a factor. So I think FSU wanted that final visit. You got to remember too, there's going to be Tramel Jones there. There's going to be
Mm,
probably guys that are already pretty sold on FSU. I think having Tramel Jones there is going to be a big deal because him and Tramel are buddies. They play on the same 7-on-7 team. You might be able to build a strong connection there, but I do think there's work to do with them. I
yeah.
think Florida is certainly a team that I hear the most buzz about, but I think FSU consistently is a team that the buzz is not wavered as far as the FSU side of their chances. So I think they still feel if they really nail it and hit a home run, that they're very much in the picture. But I think that's part of the draw and the reason they did this official visit last for Fernell's. They knew that Tramel Jones would be there,
Yeah.
and that's a big factor to help with this recruitment because comfort on official visits is everything. That's what kids are looking for. They're looking for some kind of feeling and situation because all these schools have great facilities. A lot of them have great products on the field. Certainly Ohio State and other programs, and they got a lot to sell. But when you're around that comfort and you feel that kind of something unique about that school, I think having another person there you're really comfortable with is a big deal.
Yeah, and Vernell Brown, when he was here in Nashville, he said, I'm going to make a July decision. Not exactly sure what date that's going to be, but look for him to make his decision 2 or 3 weeks after this Florida State visit. So we'll keep
Right.
an eye on him. The last prospect I want to talk about it comes at a major position of need for Florida State, and that's defensive line. And we're going to talk Myron Charles because he's been trending toward Florida State on the recruiting prediction machine for about 6 weeks now. But he's taken visits to Texas, to Florida. So in your opinion, do you think he's still an FSU lean heading into this visit, or is it an even race?
I still think I like where they're at. I don't think it's probably quite as big a
Hmm.
lead as it was, but I still think it's pretty comfortable enough where I think coming in this weekend, FSU's been the most consistent team in that recruitment. Odo Hagen's has done a phenomenal job with that recruitment, as has Coach Adam Fuller, defensive coordinator, and certainly Mike Norvell. They've all done a great job. They've been the most consistent team in this whole process with Myron. I think it's cool that you mentioned Myron because there's several guys that you have on commit watch that are visiting. Byron Lewis, running back, who I think FSU still sits in a good spot for. Gregory Thomas, American Heritage 4-star DB. You certainly have him, and Tavion Wallace. I think there's a great chance of capitalizing on opportunity. Just 4 or 5 guys I can think about that I feel like FSU's trending for that. If the visits go well and they nail it, it could be a really fun weekend, an explosive weekend for FSU.
All right, going to be an epic weekend in Tallahassee. FSU fans, how we feeling? Let me know. Comment section below. Who do you think out of this massive visit list? Who do you think FSU lands? Let us know. Comment section below. Ohio State recruiting never stops. There's currently 2 big-name visitors on campus as we speak. We're going to cover it all in this video. I got Matt Parker from Letterman Row to break it all down. But first, Buckeye fans, hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel, the best recruiting channel on YouTube. All right, let's bring on Matt Parker. Now, expected on campus on Tuesday, midweek visits here at Ohio State. Edge Isaiah Gibson, who's committed to Georgia, and defensive lineman Jarquez Carter. So beef on the defensive line. Now, they're both from the South. One committed to USC in Isaiah Gibson. The other looking around in Jarquez Carter. He's from Florida. What are you hearing on these two heading into this midweek official visit?
Yeah, Josh, I can confirm as we are recording this right now that those two are on campus. They made it to Ohio State this morning, which is all good for the Buckeyes there. And let's start with Isaiah Gibson, the 5-star edge out of Warner Robins, Georgia, committed to USC. This is his debut visit to Ohio State. He's never been to Ohio State. And with that, he has a great relationship with defensive line coach Larry Johnson. And I think this is very much a let's kind of see like if Ohio State can't enter the mix here. I mean, Ohio State has quite the reputation of developing edge rushers. That's something that you and I have talked about all the time as it comes to defensive line. Kind of matched some faces, names and faces for Isaiah Gibson. I mean, he knows Larry Johnson. He's talked to Ryan Day a handful of times just through text and on the phone. Jim Knowles, Ohio State's defensive coordinator, has been a little bit involved here. But this is predominantly a Larry Johnson operation for the Buckeyes, and it's pretty much a 48-hour showcase of here's why you should consider Ohio State as a 5-star edge rusher. And then we move into Jarquez Carter. This is a guy that Ohio State has kind of, I don't want to say has kept in the shadows, but like this is a guy that Ohio State has been recruiting pretty hard. It's a school, Ohio State is a school that isn't really being talked about much with Jarquez Carter. I know there's a few RPM picks in for the Florida Gators. Miami is a contender here. Central Florida is a contender here. But just talking with some sources, Ohio State was pushing for this summer official visit for Carter. Initially, it sounded like he was going to make an in-season official visit, and he was kind of pushing his decision a little closer to signing day in December. But speaking with Carter before his visit, it was important for him to get up to Ohio State to kind of compare where the Buckeyes are with a couple of other schools that he's really rocking with right now. He has the top 6, so that Ohio State is in the top 6 for Carter. And then I think Ohio State is a really big contender for another defensive tackle, Trojan Odom out of North Carolina, who is heading to USC this weekend. And I think either Trajan Odom or Jarquez Carter is going to be one of those defensive tackles that's going to end up in the class for Ohio State. And as important as it was for Carter to get to campus, it was equally as important for Ohio State to have Carter on campus. So both him and Gibson, 2 big-time guys for the Buckeyes, they'll be on campus until Thursday afternoon.
Right. And then as soon as they leave campus, a whole other group arrives. Now, here's some big names on campus. I can't even go through them all. You're going to have to go to lettermanrow.com for more. But here's some of the big names I want to talk about. And we're going to start with the number 1 offensive tackle in America, David Sanders. He's been making his way all around the country. This weekend, though, he is back in Columbus. I think it's his 4th visit this spring or this summer, this offseason, I should say, for David Sanders to Ohio State. How do you think the Buckeyes are sitting in this one?
I like where Ohio State stands for David Sanders, not to be confused with Davis Sanders. I saw that on the Wiltfong Whip Around, a couple of jokes about that, so I had to sneak one in there too.
Hey, Ohio State better get it right. The comment
yeah.
section does not let you slip on a misspelled word.
Yeah, that would be pretty tough back-to-back weekends. But anyway, Ohio State with David Sanders. This will be the, I believe, 3rd time that he has been on campus in the calendar year 2024. And he's going to be here for the entire weekend. Once again, the biggest thing about this recruitment here, Josh, for me with Ohio State is just how many times throughout his recruitment and with Ohio State specifically that he's talked about Paris Johnson Jr., the former Ohio State offensive tackle who got drafted number 6 overall by the Arizona Cardinals, was developed by Justin Fry in his last year as a Buckeye, last 2 years as an Ohio State Buckeye, as a matter of fact. And that relationship with the Sanders family and Paris's family, his mother, Monica Daniels, she's going to be on Ohio State's campus once again this weekend, which is significant. She has been a very big person in this recruitment that deserves a lot of credit for where Ohio State is sitting at right now. But obviously, so does offensive line coach Justin Fry. The Sanders family clearly believes in the recruiting pitch that is being presented by Ohio State. They believe in the plan of development on and off the field that Ohio State has for Sanders. I thought it was major, and we talked about this a little bit before we started taping here, that he canceled the midweek Alabama official visit. And I think after Ohio State, it's really going to be sit down and look at the options. And right now, I saw the Wiltfong Whip Around, as we mentioned, where, it's really sounding like Ohio State, Tennessee, and Georgia kind of as those top 3 schools. And the old adage of having the last visit is a big play here for Ohio State. Not to mention the fact that a bunch of Ohio State commits are going to be on campus this weekend, including 5-star quarterback Tavian St. Clair. So there's a lot going on and going in Ohio State's way, and we're just going to have to see how it goes.
Yeah, there are going to be a lot of commits on campus, but there's only one that I want to know about, and that's cornerback Naeem Offord. Now, he's the number 3 ranked corner in the country. He's a 5-star prospect from the state of Alabama, committed early to Ohio State, but he's been taking some visits recently. Is there any reason for concern over Naeem Offord in these recent visits to Alabama and Oregon?
I can't tell anyone to not be worried, but what I can say is that the Ohio State staff is very confident in Naeem Offord's commitment to the Buckeyes. And Naeem Offord has time and time again said, yeah, I'm locked in with Ohio State. I am just taking these other visits, which is a very weird thing to say, in my opinion. But hey, if the guy is saying that he's locked in and, we just got to take people at their word.
That's
right?
all you can do right now.
I think that's really all you can do anymore, the way that recruiting is going. I mean, we can circle back to last year in the 2024 cycle with Jeremiah Smith, who repeatedly said that he was locked into Ohio State despite making visits all throughout the state of Florida until he signed his letter of intent at about, 10:30 at night on the first day of the signing day. So I think some Buckeye fans need to have a little bit of faith in Tim Walton, Ohio State cornerback coach, Matt Guerreri, safeties coach, Jim Knowles, Ryan Day, Mark Pantoni, and the entire recruiting staff. This is a big weekend, though, as you mentioned, by bringing up Naeem Offord, because Devin Sanchez, the 5-star plus cornerback commit to Ohio State, has shut down his recruitment entirely, is very locked into Ohio State, and this will be a good weekend for Naeem Offord to really remember why he committed to Ohio State in the first place.
And I will say, Naeem Offord was here in Nashville for the On3 Elite Series. He was repping Ohio State to the fullest. So that being said, I don't really have a concern, but 4 visits to Alabama in 8 days coming off this Nashville trip, I could see how it could raise some eyebrows, but he'll be back in Columbus this weekend. Edge Zion Grady. took a visit to Ohio State, what was it, 3 weeks ago now? Really made a great impression on him, but since then he's taken a couple other visits. He's been to Georgia, he's been to Florida State, he's been to Miami, and it doesn't seem like maybe Ohio State's right there on the tip of his tongue, but he'll be back in Columbus this weekend. What do you think of where Zion Grady sits with Ohio State?
It's a pretty interesting spot for me. As you mentioned, he was on campus really when a lot of guys from Alabama were at Ohio State's campus like the opening weekend of May. I mean, guys like Zion Grady, Malik Autry was there, the Auburn commit, who's also going to Ohio State this coming weekend. You make a good point where Ohio State may not be on the tip of the tongue, but Ohio State has always been there. And I think that's important. The moment that Zion Grady decommitted from Alabama way back when, defensive line coach Larry Johnson was one of the first people to reach out and just be like, hey, like, we're still here. Ohio State is still here. The fact that the Buckeyes were able to get Grady on campus in May kind of give him a little taste of what Ohio State is like. I think that's significant. The biggest, I think, struggle that Ohio State has at times is it has to recruit nationally. That's how you win national championships, is by recruiting nationally. And Ohio State, for a lot of these guys, is just far away, and kids kind of forget what it's like to be on campus at Ohio State. I think this weekend could shake things up in the recruitment of Zion Grady, and we kind of just have to see, again, what happens. But I will have some stuff coming out for LettermanRoad.com if people want to check in more on where the Buckeyes stand in that recruitment.
Oh, they do, and they will. Go to LettermanRoad.com. Last prospect I want to talk about for heading into the weekend is running back Jordan Davidson. He's out of Mater Dei High School, and he was on Twitter today kind of alluding to the fact that, hey, a decision might be coming soon. What are the odds that Jordan Davidson ends up a Buckeye?
I still like where Ohio State stands right now, even though the Buckeyes have 2 running back commitments right now, one from Bo Jackson, the in-state guy out of Cleveland, and then the other from Isaiah West, who announced his commitment on Sunday, but when he made his unofficial visit early in May, he committed that weekend. So Ohio State is rolling right now with 2 running back commits. It wants a third. Davison is certainly the last guy for Ohio State, the absolute, everything. We've been recruiting you for 2 years, all of that. This is really the final push for and by Ohio State for Jordan Davidson. I think right now I view Oregon as the biggest contender for Jordan Davidson. And I just think you take stock of where Oregon is at right now. I think the Ducks only have 1 running back commit right now. Ohio State, with its 2 running back commits, there's just a lot of opportunity for young running backs at Ohio State right now. When you look at the 2025 season, what the depth chart is expected to be, and this is really the final weekend for Ohio State to really put everything on the table and just be like, it's time, time to be a Buckeye. That's really what this last visit weekend serves as, and that's why you see every year the biggest stars head to Ohio State the last weekend of June. So as far as a decision comes soon, how soon to be determined, but I would not be surprised if he makes this Ohio State official visit and 10 days he makes a decision, and whether that's Ohio State or not, we're going to have to watch and find out.
It's going to be an exciting weekend. Buckeye fans, tap in with us. Let us know. Comment section below. Who do you think Ohio State lands this weekend? Who are you most excited to have on campus? Let us know. Big weekend coming. Comment section below. Let's talk some Miami recruiting, because the Canes, they're coming off a big visit weekend, and they're getting ready for another big visit weekend, which is a good time to catch up with CaneSport insider Azubi Charles. And in this video, we're going to hit on a few key flip targets. We're also going to get the latest on 5-star DJ Pickett. But first, guys, hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. We love talking Canes recruiting all offseason long, so go ahead, jump on board and hit subscribe. All right. Let's bring on Azubi Charles from CaneSport. Now, before we get into who's coming this weekend, I want to talk about 5-star cornerback DJ Pickett, who made his official visit to Miami last weekend. And coming out of that, I talked to Steve Wiltfong, and Steve says DJ Pickett is Miami's #1 overall target this cycle. So after the visit, how are you feeling? Where do you think Miami sits among the competition?
Yeah, I think Miami's at the top, if not the top school for DJ Pickett, right along with LSU coming out that visit. This weekend went really, really well, and I had the chance to speak with DJ and his family after they wrapped things up down in Coral Gables. heading into that OV earlier last week, his dad really said, hey, we want to see what Miami's plan is for my son. We want to see what they want to do with him when he gets on campus, how they help him progress and reach his potential. And they believe they saw all that and more this past weekend. While the OVs are going to be crucial in DJ Pickett's recruitment, I think in-season play is going to be even more important. He really said he wants to see how all of his top programs do in those first few weeks with that October 5th commitment. I'm not a betting man, but I think if Miami starts that fall season hot and they get the ball rolling and continue to get the ball rolling, I think it's going to be really, really hard to beat the Hurricanes, and I think they'll have a great chance to land DJ Pickett.
Yeah, and that home opener, I shouldn't say home opener, that road opener for the Canes, DJ Pickett will be in the Swamp to watch that one. So Miami has a chance early in the season to make a big impression on the five-star corner. All right, also on campus over the weekend was Dallas Wilson. He's an intriguing prospect because he has been committed to the Oregon Ducks for 14, 15 months now. So well over a year he's been committed to the Ducks. But what's interesting is he's from Tampa, Florida. And we all know as signing day gets closer, more and more pressure will be on him to stay in state. Or is he going to really go 3,000 miles away and play ball for Oregon? Seems solid, but over the weekend he was in Miami. What are you hearing on Dallas Wilson?
Yeah, Miami staff is just chipping away slowly but surely in that recruitment. Like you mentioned, a very, very long time commit to Oregon. And Miami's playing their cards right. They're just saying, hey, just come check us out. Give us a chance to see what we have to offer. And this weekend, I feel like just getting him on campus was very, very big because they've tried to get him on campus a few times and things haven't worked out. But he actually moved around a few official visits to get down in Miami. Coach Kevin Beer and that staff, really, really value Wilson. Think he's one of the best wide receivers in the country. And that's why they have not given up on his recruitment. Like I said, they just keep chipping away slowly. Trying to just show them, hey, you don't have to go all the way across the country to succeed. We have all that you need in Miami. And I think he's another guy that's going to be watching how the Hurricanes do this season. And if that offense is as explosive as they think with Cam Ward and the weapons that he has, I feel like it's going to be hard not to consider Miami a real threat when December comes around.
Miami with a ton of options at the wide receiver position. Dallas Wilson's a five-star. Jamie French was on campus earlier in the week, so was Vernell Brown. A lot of talent on that wide receiver board for Miami. One more in-state prospect I want to hit on is Myron Charles. He's from Port Charlotte. He's the second best defensive lineman in the state of Florida, and his recruitment is heating up. Now, of course, all the in-state schools are on him, but now Texas enters the picture. Myron Charles takes a visit there last weekend, or 2 weekends ago. Now he was at Miami. How do you feel about Myron Charles and the Canes' chances to keep him in-state?
Yeah, so heading into this visit, I always thought Miami was kind of on the outside looking in with Myron Charles, with kind of Florida State kind of being that front runner, that leader. He said that before publicly. So, I was really, looking to see what he had to say coming out the visit. He had a lot of good things to say about the Hurricanes, and, they've been recruiting him for a very, very long time. They've kind of always been in the mix, but have never kind of made that leap to the top of the list. I don't think they're there just yet, but I do think this past weekend did have a really big impact in his recruitment. And Miami's kind of steadily climbing, kind of making their way up that list. But I feel like it's going to be hard to beat out those other programs. But I feel like Miami did their, a good job of kind of making their way up that list and making a push for them.
All right, one last prospect I want to hit on, and he's coming in this week. And now there's a bunch of prospects taking official visits to Miami. Go over to Cane Sport. They do an incredible job of covering all the names. But there's one I want to focus on heading into the weekend, and that's Hilton Stubbs. The USC commitment was at UF last weekend. He's going to be at Miami this weekend. Now, he's from Jacksonville, Mandarin High School in Jacksonville, committed to USC a couple months ago. How do you feel about Stubbs' recruitment to Miami heading into this visit?
Yeah, I think it's a great sign that the Hurricanes are getting him back on campus for an official visit. He was in Miami earlier this spring and had a lot of great things to say about his relationship with Miami and kind of the new defensive backs coach, Tevis Jackson, who's kind of taken over that recruitment alongside defensive coordinator Lance Kidry. Miami's done a great job of just keeping in consistent contact with him and letting him know what's going down, in Coral Gables, and he loves that. I'm excited to see what he has to say coming out the visit, and I think the Hurricanes could potentially boost, where they stand as a recruitment if things go well and they really show him what they all have to offer down there.
All right, recruiting is red hot down in Miami. Another big visit weekend on tap. Zuby Charles with Cane Sport, thanks for dropping by today on the Inside Scoop.
Thank you for having me.
Well, you've made it to the end of today's video, but there's hundreds more videos on the On3 Recruits channel for you to check out. And also, while you're here, hit subscribe.